My ex-husband paid child support for kids he wasn't supporting anymore, and I never corrected him. For years, I accepted child support payments for 3 children when only one still lived at home. My ex knew exactly how to stop it. We had agreed on the process years earlier, and yet he never filed a single piece of paperwork. Now his girlfriend says I took advantage of him, and suddenly I'm questioning everything. When my husband and I divorced, we had 4 children who were still minors. As part of the divorce agreement, he was ordered to pay child support. During the process, both of our attorneys explained something very important. When each child turned 18, the support payments wouldn't automatically adjust. Someone had to file paperwork with family court. The process wasn't complicated. It involved a small fee, a simple court filing, and the support amount would be updated based on how many children were still eligible. Because I was working as a paralegal at the time and was comfortable dealing with legal paperwork, my ex and I made an agreement. I would handle the paperwork when our oldest child turned 18, and after that, he would take over filing the future reductions. We were both present for that conversation. We both agreed to it. Nobody was confused. When our oldest turned 18, I did exactly what I promised. I filed the paperwork, the court approved it, and his child support obligation dropped from 4 children to 3. Everything worked exactly as intended. Then our second child turned 18. I waited for him to file. Nothing happened. I figured maybe he'd ask me for guidance or want help with the forms. We were still on good terms and communicated regularly, so it wasn't like he couldn't reach me, but he never mentioned it. The payment stayed the same. Months passed, then years. Eventually, our third child turned 18. Again, nothing happened. No paperwork, no questions, no requests for help, no court filing. At that point, I had only one minor child living at home, yet I was still receiving child support based on 3 children. Did I know that? Absolutely. Did he know our children were turning 18? Of course he did. They were his children too. He attended birthdays, graduations, family events. He watched them become adults just like I did, and still, he never filed anything. Never called an attorney, never contacted the court, never asked me about the process, nothing. Years went by like that. Then finally, our youngest child turned 18 and graduated from high school. One day, my ex handed me paperwork ending the child support payments altogether. I signed it immediately. No argument, no resistance, no complaints. Honestly, I was happy to close that chapter. Everything seemed fine until his girlfriend got involved. As soon as she learned what had happened, she looked at me and said, "I just found out he's been overpaying for years. You knew and said nothing." Then she kept going. "You knew how to file the paperwork. You knew he was paying support for 3 kids when only one was living with you. How could you just let that happen?" And here's the uncomfortable part. Everything she said was technically true. I did know. I did understand the process. I did continue receiving the money. But what she completely ignored was that he knew too. He wasn't some helpless victim who had no idea what was happening. He sat in the same attorney meetings. He heard the same instructions. He made the same agreement. He knew the responsibility to file belonged to him after the first adjustment. And unlike me, he chose to do absolutely nothing. That's why I never really thought about it as my responsibility. I wasn't hiding anything. I wasn't sending fake information. I wasn't lying to the court. The payments continued because the person responsible for changing them never bothered to file the paperwork. Even after his girlfriend confronted me, my ex didn't seem particularly upset. We still have a good relationship. He never accused me of tricking him. He never threatened legal action. He simply finalized the paperwork and moved on. But her reaction stuck with me, because while I know I wasn't legally required to remind him, I keep wondering whether I should have. Maybe there is a difference between what's legally your responsibility and what's morally the right thing to do. And that's the question I can't stop thinking about. Comment reminder if you think I should have reminded him even though it was his responsibility. Because the more I think about it, the more I wonder whether staying silent was completely fair or just very convenient.